Hey, before we get started, I just want to let you know that there is a contest still going on, and you can enter to win a bunch of stuff at podcastinsights.com/pumpup. That's podcastinsights.com/PUMPUP. And you can win 1 annual pro subscription to Castos podcast hosting, 2 months of full service podcast production and editing services, lifetime access to my podcast website Launchpad course, 1 annual membership to Headliner Pro, and 1 annual membership to Squadcast Pro. So again, go to podcastinsights.com/pumpup to enter to win. Hey, thanks for listening to the Podcasting Simplified podcast. My name is Ross, and today we're going to talk about how to start a WordPress blog for your podcast or not. Now, I know I've been talking a bunch about why you need to start a website, a WordPress website for your podcast, how crucial that is to really take it to the next level, make it easy to share, make it easy to grow. And I actually have shared previously, but I get about 50% of my listeners from people on a desktop or laptop, not on a mobile device. And that is because of the website. So it's really important, and I'm going to keep talking about it so I can help you grow your show. Now, learning how to start a WordPress blog can be both fun and profitable, but if you do it without a little guidance and some tips on kind of things to do, you can easily get frustrated and quit, and we don't want that. So I'm going to run you through how I would start a WordPress blog in 2020, plus give you a few popular options and tips. So we're going to go through a little bit of everything, how to choose a topic, which may or may not apply if you already have a podcast. Go through the domain name, WordPress hosting, theme, customizing with plugins, stuff like that. And also, if you look in the show notes, I have a blog post for all this stuff. So you want to read it and see screenshots and be able to kind of reference it a little bit easier, be sure and check that out. And you can both listen and read either way. So first thing you need to do is come up with a domain name, and that's usually going to be the same thing as maybe your podcast name. And you want something that's specific enough so it'll resonate with your audience, but not too specific that you can't maybe expand and grow beyond it over the course of a year or more. And there are over 4 million blog posts published every day, so it's really important to be unique. I have a little example. So if you think about it this way, if you're getting heart surgery, would you rather go to a heart surgeon or a general surgeon? And that one is pretty obvious, but that same sort of logic applies to your podcast and to your website. So go with the specific option that will resonate with your audience. Now, how do you choose a blog topic or a podcast topic? You might have some ideas already, but here's a couple things to think about. Something that you want to make sure you have plenty of content to talk or write about, so not too narrow. It's interesting to you, so you're going to keep doing it. And then there's an audience of other people who are interested in it as well. Now, I have a few ideas to help you kind of brainstorm. And so this will apply for your podcast or website, either one. But think about what other people struggle with. And so what do your friends, family, or colleagues complain about that you do easily? And what do people compliment you on? And feel free to go ask some people what you're good at. And then also, how do people introduce you to others? What do they say you're great at? What would you do if you had an extra 3 hours free? And what would you talk about with a friend for 3 hours? So these are obviously things that you would be interested in. And then what do you do on a Saturday afternoon? So when you're not working, what do you enjoy and what do you like to do? What are you excited about? And what do other people do that you think is cool and interesting? So maybe it's not something you do now, but you want to get started or learn more about it. And what I would do is take a few minutes and write out a bunch of these ideas, good or bad, just kind of brainstorm all this stuff. And then once you get those down, kind of narrow them down. So circle ones maybe, or make a new list of ones that really, after the second pass, sound good, and kind of go from there. Now, once you have that figured out, I do have some tips on choosing a domain name that I have talked about in a previous episode, and I also will leave a link to a blog post about that. Things like using a .com and keeping it short, stuff like that. The next step you need is WordPress hosting. So I've talked about that in previous episodes, and I recommend a couple. Last episode, I mentioned I use Kinsta, and then I also recommend Bluehost for cost purposes. So it's quite a bit cheaper, and they have a great kind of easy to start way to start with WordPress. So with Bluehost, you can I have some instructions on this blog post. Basically, it tells you which plans you should select. So they have a basic one for if you only need one website, it's the cheapest way to go. If you need more than one website, there's another option. So really, that's up to you. And then you can either get a free domain name through Bluehost for the first year, so you can you don't have to know that right away when you sign up. So you can choose it later, or you can get it right away when you do your initial sign up process. And then there's a couple other things that you some optional services that they offer. And the only one that I really would make sure you have is Whois Privacy, so that you don't get a bunch of spam calls and direct mail. But that will just prevent your personal information from being out in the public. Anyway, you sign up for 12, 24, or 36 month plan, and I believe the 12-month plan is $56 or something with a link here, and then it goes up. You pay more when you get longer term plan, but you pay less per month. So it's kind of a little trade-off is how much you want to do up front. And then last episode I talked all about Kinsta, so I'm not going to kind of go into that again, but that's a great option. They just start at $30 a month, and you get quite a kind of comprehensive hosting and backups and CDN and DNS services and all kinds of stuff together. Now, there's kind of a common question about WordPress.org versus WordPress.com, and they're really completely different. They use the same kind of WordPress CMS, but it's a little bit different. So WordPress.com is a service that you pay monthly to, and they host everything, and then they have limitations on themes and plugins you can use unless you're on their business plan, which is $25 a month. And for the most part, I just don't recommend WordPress.com to most people. Now, WordPress.org is technically a self-hosted version, and that's what you would use when you're hosting with Bluehost or Kinsta. And because it's for one, it's free, the core WordPress, you just pay for the servers. And you don't really need to know more than that. Just make sure that you don't sign up through WordPress.com. When you first install WordPress, there's some settings that you want to change right away that really aren't great to have selected. So I do have a few here. So delete the default post, page, and comment. They'll say something like "Hello World" or first comment, something real generic. You want to get rid of those right away. And then you also want to make sure that you have a strong password on your administrator login so that people don't hack your website. And I've actually had this happen. I set up a website for someone, and I forgot to set a strong password, and it was hacked. And then I had to go clean it up, and it's just a pain. And if you don't know how to clean it up, it's more of a pain. So just make sure you use a good password. And then you also want to make sure you have your site title, tagline, and time zone set up under settings, general preferences. And then there's a setting called permalinks that you want to change to post name, and that's under settings, permalink. And that's just how your URL is set up. So once you change that, you won't have to touch it again. And then change your default category. I'm pretty sure it says something like uncategorized. So you want to change the name of that default category to something that makes sense. So maybe it's podcast, or maybe it's a subtopic of your main topic, whatever you want to do. And you can create more categories too, but just go ahead and change that so you don't just have an uncategorized section. It looks kind of like like you're new and just getting started. So you don't want that. Now, WordPress themes, there's some free themes you can do if you don't want to pay right away. WordPress comes with some default themes. I think 2020 is the latest one that you can get started with, or you can search. I'm not a big fan of the free themes. I actually recommend premium themes because they are better updated, well supported. They're coded better. They're fast and secure, things like that. So it really all adds up. And I'm a big fan of StudioPress and GeneratePress for themes. So I'll leave links to those. And then specifically for podcasting websites, Second Line Themes is excellent. So I'll also leave a link to them, and you can take a look there. Now, there's some plugins that I recommend you install right away. Most of them are free. So the first one is called Yoast SEO, and this is one of it. I think it's the most popular SEO plugin for WordPress, and it just basically lets you get the basics set up properly and kind of walks you through just little things to make your blog posts and pages better optimized. So go ahead and install that, and they have a nice walkthrough that shows you kind of how to set everything up. And then the next one is called Short Pixel, and this is a automatic image compression plugin. So what you do is install it, and then as you upload images in the background, they send them to their servers and then back to your website, and it makes your image file size a lot smaller, but the quality stays the same. It's not even noticeable. And a smaller file size means that your site loads faster, which means that your visitors and listeners are happier. And images are one of the largest files, basically, on a website, as you would imagine. So that one is crucial. And you get a handful per month for free. I think it might be 100 images or something. So that's plenty. And if you need more, then you can always buy a one-time package or a monthly package. I think I bought a one-time package of 20,000 images or something, and I don't think I'll ever go through all that. So the next plugin is Back WP Up. If you use Kinsta, you won't need this, but if you use Bluehost, I recommend this. And what I do is set it up so it automatically backs up to Dropbox every week, and it just saves your website and then sends it to Dropbox. And that way, if you mess something up or if you get hacked or whatever, then you have a version of your website that you can reload. So I think those are crucial. Backing your website up doesn't sound all that exciting, but when you need it, it's crucial. And then I have started using WP Rocket, which is a paid plugin for caching, and it does a bunch of other speed stuff like lazy loading, which means as you scroll down the page, images will load once they're in view instead of loading the whole page at once. So just a bunch of little stuff that makes your website a lot faster, and I'm kind of into the speed aspect. So definitely check that one out. There are some other caching style plugins that are free, but WP Rocket is definitely the easiest to set up, and you don't have to really understand a bunch, and they have excellent documentation. So big fan of that one ever since I switched a few months ago. Hey, that's it for part 1. We are going to continue with part 2 next week. So be sure and subscribe and stick around to hear all about that. So we're going to talk about what to write about in your first blog post, how to do keyword research, required pages that you need to include, and exactly what to have on those pages, and much more. So we'll see you next week, and thanks for listening.